guide you and support and assist you in the deliberations that you will have during this morning. I'm going to start by presenting to you an image that we call the volunteering ecosystem. It's really the European volunteering ecosystem. It's an updated image from a previous one that some of you may have seen from a number of years ago. We wanted to update it to make it very clear what is the source of the energy, what is the source of the motivation, the enthusiasm from the volunteers. Here you can see an image of some volunteers being very busy, doing different things. And what we wanted in this image was to show really why they are doing it. And they are doing it because of values-based, because of the values that they believe in. And here you can see values of the European Union. There's an additional concept added, which is not an official value of the European Union, is solidarity. We felt it was very important to also include solidarity on this image. So this is the source, this is the values that drive probably all of you, but certainly all of our volunteers to do what they do. They do it in the framework of striving for collaborative communities. I don't know all of you here, but I suspect that there are people here, representatives from different sectors, public authorities, businesses, volunteering organizations, volunteering infrastructure organizations. We need all of these entities to come together on the basis of these values, striving towards the collaborative communities that we all want. Here also on the image you can see some of the things that we need for the collaborative communities. How they need to come together, online, in person, creating, co-creating things together, crisis prevention, all of these things that we need to do together within the collaborative communities which we live. Volunteering is an essential part, we believe, at CNE of these communities. And in this image we also want to guide volunteering in two broad spheres, and you will see them now here on the image. One broad area of volunteering, or way of volunteering, we call it continuous volunteering. So these are people on the journey. You can see the bus, the people on the volunteering journey. That's really a lifestyle. It's really a lifestyle that they are continuously volunteering, weekly, monthly, on an annual basis, on a regular basis. And here you can see the spheres that we see that these people are volunteering in. The first group of 4 here are the ones that we see where volunteers are interfacing directly with people. So it's really volunteers being with people in social services, in sports, in education, really interacting directly with people. And these are the fields where we see this happen. Up here you can see different fields where volunteers are equally as important, but they're not necessarily interfacing directly with the target groups, directly with the beneficiaries. We think here about people volunteering in the technological sphere, or in ecology and wildlife perhaps, or in restoration of buildings, of culture. So this is how we see the people in the continuous volunteering journey. On the other side of the image, we call it sporadic volunteering. So people who really only volunteer occasionally because they are inspired by a particular need, a particular moment, an opportunity that comes to them to volunteer in a sporadic way. And we divide this sporadic volunteering in 2 strands as well. One that we call sporadic planned volunteering, and one that we call sporadic unplanned volunteering. With the unplanned, we're really talking about natural disasters, if we can call them natural, because many of these disasters now, flooding, storms, fires, they are of course in one way natural, but they are in another way, of course, human-made through climate change and our impact that they have on the planet. We call it unplanned, but of course these volunteers need to be trained, they need to be prepared, but they are ready to react when there are significant problems where they need to come into play. The planned volunteering is mainly around event volunteering. I don't know if this is a growing field anymore, but this is an increasingly popular way for people to volunteer across Europe and to be engaged in a sporadic way, in a planned way, for a particular event which can last from a few hours to even a week or so. Here we divide into sections. So the big events that would happen anyway, even if there were no volunteers, but they would happen in a less cost-effective way. And then we talk about the small events which wouldn't happen without volunteers. And these two kinds of events, these two kinds of event volunteering need to be treated differently, they need to be thought about differently when we think about how to support the volunteers and how to promote volunteering in this sphere. In Europe, we have really one framework, one solid, concrete framework where we can talk about volunteering in European policymakers, and this is the European Solidarity Corps program. You can see it there. It's a program for young people. We at CED would like to see a more comprehensive program that could involve a wider range of people, but for now, this is what we have. I hope that our leaders, our policymakers at EU level, of course coming from the member states, our youth ministers, will agree in the next new multi-annual financial framework to continue the European Solidarity Corps into the future. Mentors are an important part of Solidarity Corps to ensure quality experiences for young people, but we know mentoring and support for all volunteers is essential, whether they are volunteers themselves or whether they are paid people supporting volunteers. This is also an essential part of the volunteering ecosystem that we wanted to show there. Not to forget also advocacy, so the organized people who are advocating for volunteering, but also all the people within this volunteering sphere who are advocating for the rights, for the needs of all the beneficiaries and all the people that are at the receiving end of all of this volunteering. So advocacy is also a very essential part. And the final image I want to show you is right here in the center. Here, depicted by a mobile phone and a network mast, which is the volunteering infrastructure organizations. We put it here at the heart of the image because we really think that a lot of this volunteering would happen without the volunteering infrastructure organizations, but we really think that the infrastructure volunteering organizations here, limiting all of their support, all of their training, all of their energy, their enthusiasm around volunteering, is an essential part to be at the core of all of this volunteering ecosystem that we see here. So this is the image that we come up with from Europe. It can be made available to you if it can be useful for you to reflect later. How this translates into the Maltese reality, where some of these types of volunteering and ways of volunteering are more pronounced here in Malta or when they're important. It will of course vary from country to country, but as a framework to think about volunteering, it can be interesting. Here at the bottom as well, important that all of this volunteering can be done in formal or non-formal ways as well, in the framework of an organization, an established legal organization, or of course on individual commitment out of the framework of a normal organization. Having this framework in mind, I want to draw your attention now to the blueprint for European Volunteering 2030. This is a document that was approved by the CED General Assembly in 2021. And many of you here, I see some faces, some familiar faces, were involved in 2011 in the European Year, which was also the 10th anniversary of the International Year of Volunteering in 2001. From 2011, we had the policy agenda for volunteering in Europe, PAVE. 10 years on from that, in 2021, so the 10th anniversary of EYE 2011, we also in COVID, if you remember, we couldn't have events, we couldn't do many things. So we thought it was a nice opportunity to revisit PAVE and to see what we do, what we could refresh in terms of the policy agenda going forward. So we created the blueprint for European Volunteering 2030. 2030 is of course the deadline for the SDGs, for the Sustainable Development Goals, and we thought it was important to have a framework for Europe, a policy framework looking to 2030. With this document, we wanted to remind policymakers that volunteering plays such a crucial role in social cohesion, in promotion of values, in promoting the SDGs, It's so important for social transformation and for interpersonal relationships. So going beyond task delivery, that volunteering has a much more essential component for our lives. Very structured around 5 thematic concepts: independent and inclusive engagement, new volunteers and methods, empowerment, appreciation of contribution, and resources for more value. And you will find in the document all of those chapters, and you will find the outcomes that we want to see for volunteering under all of those themes. If we look at chapter 1, independent and inclusive engagement, we highlight that for volunteering to thrive, it needs to be set in an enabling framework that's based on dignity and freedom, that enables independent and inclusive engagement that is open to everyone. We put a lot of importance on not only using volunteering for inclusion, but actually being inclusive in volunteering ourselves. We highlight in this chapter the need for transparent and democratic state funding that needs to be in place, that really supports democratic engagement of citizens. We see so much democratic backsliding across Europe that we still find it necessary to emphasize this point. In this chapter, we also focus on the need for policies and programs that facilitate transnational cooperation and solidarity, local community development, and the collaborative networking, so the cross-sector collaboration that I mentioned also before. The second chapter, we try to focus on new volunteers. Who is coming into volunteering? What are the new methods we are using for volunteering? So we see that this way to engage new volunteers, the way to use new methods, is being constantly explored by the volunteering sector. And because the volunteering sector is so dynamic and flexible, this is a challenge, but it's not such a huge challenge that you see perhaps in other sectors. We are defined, I think, by our dynamism and our flexibility as a sector. We need to ensure that any new ways of involving volunteers are based on quality principles. This chapter also describes how volunteering needs to adapt to new employment patterns. Increasingly, people don't have stable and working lives with a career path planned out for them, with regular working hours can be planned many weeks or months in advance, and volunteering needs to adapt to these new work styles that so many people find themselves in precarious employment, perhaps in the gig economy as well. This chapter also focuses on digital possibilities, non-formal engagement, as I said before, non-work of formal associations, emerging trends such as volunteerism. I don't know if people are coming to Malta for volunteerism, if it's popular for people to leave the country, to go for tourism experiences that also involve volunteering. This is a growing sector, it's a growing industry actually. There's a lot of profit organizations that are active in that field. This chapter also highlights the need for synergies between volunteering and social welfare policies. In many countries across Europe, it's very difficult if you are claiming social welfare benefits to also volunteer. There are many restrictions, there are many limitations. This is something perhaps we will also think about here if this is the case. Can more be done that there are synergies between being able to volunteer, facilitation of volunteering, also people involved in the social and welfare systems. Chapter 3 is about empowerment. And here we talk about the need for us to do volunteering with legal and policy frameworks that facilitate stability and sustainability in the volunteering sector, and making sure that the volunteering sector is enabling and inclusive. So we need to be empowered. We need to be empowered through suitable legal and policy frameworks. And that's some of the things you're going to perhaps discuss today, is how can that be improved also here in Malta. Digitalization is also mentioned in this